Green group, we're going to go back to line plots. This is going to be your assignment today. So you're going to be getting a data chart such as this, and you're going to be creating your own line plot today based on the information that you see. We're going to use this as an example. So we have to remember when we get data such as this, we have to ask ourselves important questions about it, such as what is this information about and what do the numbers or names represent? So here I can see that we have butterflies, and looks like there's 10 of them, 10 butterflies, and they're labeled A through J. And it gives each of those butterflies, it looks like their wingspan was measured in inches. And so it gives the wingspan length of each of those butterflies. So this is what this chart is telling me. Then number two, we have to then organize the data. So that just means that we're going to put it in a line plot and we're going to label the parts. Okay, we'll do that in a minute. Part three is then after we do the line plot, create it, that's going to make it much easier to answer questions. So you're not going to actually answer questions today. You're going to come up with your own questions that can be answered based on your line plot. So let's get to it. So I'm going to use that information that we just saw about the wingspan of butterflies. I'm going to give it a title. So first of all, I need a number line, right? So I go ahead, if you look, how many line or ticks do you see? There's 8 of them. The reason is because the fractions that were used, we're talking about eighths. So that's why I did that. It needs a title. Oh, here's the information again. My title is going to be Wingspan of Butterflies. And then I need to talk about what is the units of measurement I'm going to be using. Well, in this chart it says inches, so that's what I'm going to write across the bottom. Then I need to start about, okay, well, what number do I start with? Well, I look at my data chart and I think about what is the smallest number represented. Well, I see that 2 inches is the smallest, so I'm going to start with that. And then in my last number at the end, what is my largest number that I was given in this data chart? So it looks like 2 7/8, so that's going to be my last number. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill in the rest. And they're all eighths. Okay, so I have it labeled. Now all I have to do is I have to insert X's to represent which butterflies had certain wingspan measurements. So let's start with 2. How many butterflies from this chart had a wingspan of 2 inches? So it looks like just 1. Okay, what about 2 1/8 inches? Well, I can only count 1, so I'm going to include an X for 1. 2 2/8. Doesn't look like I see any butterflies, so I'm going to skip that one. That's not going to have an X. 2 3/8. Well, I see one butterfly that has that wingspan, so I'm going to insert an X for that. 2 4/8. Well, I see 2.5, so I know that's the same as 2 4/8. And there's 2 of them, so I'm going to insert 2 X's. 2 5/8. I see 2. I don't see 2 6/8, so I don't have to include an X on there. And then my longest wingspan measurement, 2 7/8, I see 3 of them. So here I created my line plot. This is what you guys are going to do today. Now I can ask questions, what you're also going to do. So one of the questions that I can ask and that can be answered based on this information is, what was the longest butterfly wingspan recorded? Okay. Obviously 2 7/8 was the longest, so that's an question that can be answered. I also can ask how many butterflies were collected for this data. All I would have to do is count up all the X's. And then I can also ask how many butterflies had a wingspan of 2.5 inches or smaller. So this is what you're going to do. You're going to create your line plot, come up with 2 questions that you can ask that could be answered. You're going to be getting a flip grid. That's where you're going to be showing your assignment. But you're first going to be drawing out your line plot, and it's all going to be based upon this information that you see here in this data chart. So I'm not going to tell you anything it's about. You have to ask yourself, what is this data telling you? What is it about? And if you then you have to think about, well, if I'm going to create a line plot, what title would I give it? What units would I give it? And how would I go about making a number line for that? So make sure you get a title, your units, and really think about this. So if you notice, most of them say eighths, but we have a couple in here that say fourths. So think about how you might going to do that. Don't let this trip you up because you know how to do 1.5, right? That's the same as 1 4/8. So what could 1 1/4 be? What would be an equivalent fraction if we were talking about eighths? So don't let this confuse you. Okay, so that's what you're going to do. You're going to get a flip grid, and you're going to you're going to use this information and create your own. And you make sure that you include your title, your units, and that you ask 2 questions. If you're confused about anything, please email me.